Dybala! He is something else. Di Lorenzo, and still Di Lorenzo! The captain brings the house down. Partenopea champions once again, but the 33-year wait will now officially come to an end.
Ciao ragazzi, and welcome to another edition of Serie Sit Down, World Football Index's podcast for your Calcio to go. I'm Frank Ravello. He's Richard Carmen. Ciao, Richard.
Ciao. Oh, it's Anthony. Ciao, Frank. I saw Anthony's comment. I was like, oh, Dominic beat him tonight. But how are you, Frank?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm exhausted, but I'm good. A lot of good Calcio.
Yeah. We're just, we just had to send a notice now about being on. Like this is how we're slacking. Life's getting too busy for either of us right now. And
yeah.
So usually we kind of give everybody notice during the day and all that other stuff that we're going to be on. And
too much Champions League. We got to watch all that, and then we're like, oh man, we got to do a podcast tonight.
I was so engulfed in that, and then trying to do my work, and kids are in soccer, and all this other stuff. And it's like, what do you? So, fun fact: we've had 70 games in Serie A, Richard. We have not had a goal on a direct free kick yet.
Really?
Yeah, like a free kick directly taken and scored. I'm not talking about like Roma with Pellegrini's goal where Dybala played a long ball and Pellegrini volleyed it in, which is one of my goal of the week candidates, by the way.
Right.
But like a curling ball into the top corner of the net, etc. Something like that, just directly from the free kick. Because I was looking at it, I was like, free kick, and said there's guys like going into this week, like they were showing I was looking up the free kick leaders, and I was like, free kick goals are from direct free kicks, and I think it's Marin who's 0 for 4 on Empoli, and they had him as the leader because he had the most attempts, but nobody has scored yet.
Interesting.
So that's crazy.
Szczesny made a beautiful stop on Muriel, which we'll get to a little bit later. So that could have been the first one, but
that could have been the first one. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see. Right now, I wonder what it could be anybody. Amazing Vincent's here, Anthony's here, Dominic's here. Good to see you guys. Hey, pack the chat. Let's talk about things. We had a couple Serie A teams going today in the Champions League. We got a couple more tomorrow. We got Europa League and Conference League on Thursday. We've got a recap of match week 7. We got a lot to discuss and digest. So we love getting your questions and your comments and that sort of thing. So, but let's just start. I think, Richard, a good place to start. We'll start with Europe. We'll go into match week 7, and then we'll preview the rest of Europe. I think that's going to be a very good way to go about doing it. Very happy about Roma finally getting a win. There you go, Vincent. All hope is not lost. My pick of them finishing fourth is a little shaky right now. But they're only 6 points out, and there's a long way to go. So
long way to go.
Yep, long way to go. So, but let's start with today's games, Richard. We had Inter against Benfica, Napoli against Real Madrid. You could probably consider, arguably, Napoli-Real Madrid was the marquee game of the Matchday 2 slate for today's games.
No argument.
No argument there whatsoever. The champions of Italy against, basically the iconic team of this competition when you think about it, Real Madrid. Carlo Ancelotti coming back to Italy, coming back to Napoli. So let's talk about this game first. It goes 3-2 in the direction of Real Madrid. So it is Serie A suffering their first loss in European competition this season. We saw Leo Østigård pouncing on a ball that I believe was headed by, was it Nathan that got his head on it first?
Yes.
Okay, so then that went off the bar, and then Leo Østigård pounced. He scored, made it 1-0. 8 minutes later, great tactics. The 4-3-1-2 from Carlo Ancelotti. The sole entire purpose is get to Lobotka and don't let him be comfortable, and that's what went on. And in particular, in this situation, a pass that normally in Serie A, in a normal environment, Di Lorenzo's going to trust that pass. He's going to trust getting it to Lobotka. But Bellingham's right there to snatch it from him. And then it's Vinny Jr. getting the pass from him and scoring to make it 1-1. And then it would be Jude Bellingham himself on a solo run going at the center backs Leo Ostegard and Nathan, and finishing to make it 2-1. Napoli are awarded a penalty scored by Piotr Zielinski in the 54th minute, and then in the 78th minute, after an excellent volley, I believe that was from Valverde, hits, Merritt tries to save it. Did he try to punch it and it hit the post and it hit him and went in? I think that was the sequence.
Yeah.
Being an own goal for Alex Merritt, kind of an unlucky situation, and the way the game ended. Napoli 2, Real Madrid 3. One of the things, Richard, and let's start with this with Napoli. Last year they cruised to the Serie A title. Okay. If you took a look at their resume in the Champions League last year, okay, you look at that group that they were in. They got a Liverpool team that were down players when they got them. Virgil van Dijk chief among them. So they were fortunate to get Liverpool at a bad time. They got a Rangers team that were lucky to be there after eliminating PSV Eindhoven. And then they got an Ajax team that just kept losing players every year. And Ajax just, continues to decline. So, we didn't learn a whole lot about them in the group stage. They went on and won a group with on their form. They're expected to win. They get to the round of 16. They get Eintracht Frankfurt. And they get, and it's pretty easy for them, especially with Eintracht, I believe, getting a red card that made things easy for Napoli. So they get to the last 8 and they play Milan, and Milan provides resistance, and Milan eliminates them 2-1 on aggregate. There's no room for Kvaratskhelia to operate. Osimhen doesn't score until the stoppage time of the second leg. So finally, Napoli face a living, breathing blue blood of European football. Okay.
The blue blood of European football.
And because I think that is probably the one question that you could ask of this Napoli team and this collection of players. How are they going to look when they have to play the big guys? Give me your impression of how you think Napoli fared today against a team of the caliber of Real Madrid.
It was a good game. It was someone put in the chat. It was a cracker of a game. It sure was. The one thing with Rudy Garcia is when he plays good teams. And I would say when he plays good teams in the league, he's gonna struggle, not be as consistent as he normally is. But when he plays the top echelon teams in the world, he's shown that he knows how to match them up and take away their weaknesses and go toe-to-toe with them, right? He's done it against the PSGs, the Chelseas, Man Cities of the world. What we saw against Real Madrid is a similar output where, they had a good schematic drawn up. Yeah, some of the players still had some movement, but it was fairly even for most part of the game. And Ostegard got his goal, and it's boom, that's exactly the formula you want to see if you're Napoli. Obviously, Real Madrid would come back and score a couple goals, but hey, Napoli hung in there. And they kept going back and forth. So overall, I want to say the schematics and the way that Napoli fought in this was impressive. They went toe to toe with the best team in Europe, and didn't look scared all that much really. And the big thing for me on the downside for Napoli, where I was unimpressed with the front three. I thought they were the ones who were lacking, and also Di Lorenzo was passing Bellingham. You give the best players for Real Madrid stepped up, right? Bellingham, he's right now a combination of Zidane, Ronaldo, and Benzema all together. He's scoring goals. He's doing everything right now for them. Vinicius Jr., he come up and scores the first goal of the game. Valverde, he's a great player. He scored a wonderful cracker, and I guess his own goal. I gave that goal to Valverde. So the Stars had to beat them, and they did. And that's what you expect from Real Madrid. They're going to always show up in these kind of moments. But Napoli weren't afraid. They went toe-to-toe with them. I thought the midfield was doing a really good job for Napoli. Really kept them in the game. Obviously, Zielinski got that goal. But yeah, overall, I think this is a great performance for Napoli. They can learn now when they go to Madrid at the Bernabeu. Hopefully, it'll be another great game. They can steal a win from Madrid there, but they should be confident after this game as opposed to hanging their head down for losing.
I mean, generally speaking, it's not going to be a good day for Napoli if Matteo Politano is the best performing of the three up front.
Yeah, I thought he was ass.
and he was crap too. So I mean, it's just slightly ahead. What do I think of the penalty decision? I thought it was fair. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts were.
Yeah. I thought it was fair.
Yeah. You know, you find, I mean, sometimes, I mean, when you're playing against a team like Real Madrid, I mean, they're not a team you're going to go out and dominate like you would against, you know, Lecce like they did at the weekend. You know, you're going to have to find a
part too. You know,
yeah, they're going to have to find a way to score goals, and the game was relatively even. The possession was relatively even. You know where I think the glaring difference was, and it showed up in particular in the first half, is the blend of power and pace that Bellingham, Vinny Jr., and Rodrigo can throw at you up front. I mean, Bellingham automatically is going to get selected in this team, but to go with Rodrigo and Vinny up front against Ostergaard and Nathan, I think was a masterstroke by Ancelotti. You know, Joselu has been in there. He's been scoring goals left and right, but he's a target. You know, he's a guy that you put him in there, and it's a little bit different for an Ostergaard. It's a little bit different for a Nathan. They know where he's going to be, you know, in most cases, and they're going to be able to deal with him and man mark him. Now you bring a couple of pacier guys that can stretch them, that can give them problems, that can move the center backs around, which kind of helped, you know, their movement maybe helped open up some space when Bellingham scored that second goal as well. Imagine if this Madrid team had a proper target striker. Well, I mean, the tactics dictated themselves, Vincent, tonight, where Real Madrid did not need a proper target striker.
Did I hear this? Did I hear this crazy stat correctly? That they said Bellingham has 9 goals in his first 9 games for Madrid. I mean, you're talking Ronaldo and Benzema type numbers there, and he's not even a striker. So they don't even need a striker, right? The way this formation is, I mean, their two guys up top are very versatile. They're very skilled. Vinicius is one of the best players in the world. And so, yeah, they can do their thing, then go out wide, and then, you know, Bellingham and everybody else slides right in there, and they can feed off of that. So this is a good setup right now for Ancelotti's men. I don't know if they need a 9 at the moment.
Carlo has turned that kid loose, flat out. And can you imagine, because right now I think it's lined up for him to join for free next year, but can you imagine when Kylian Mbappe joins this team? Okay. And you can play this same system. And I don't know if Ancelotti's going to be back after this season, because I think he's going to coach Brazil. You know, he's going to be Brazil's next coach after whenever. But
if one person can handle the egos, it's 2 people, really: Ancelotti and Zidane.
Ancelotti has always been, to me, like one of the best man managers.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, there's a reason why he's been around so long. There's a reason why he's won so many Champions League trophies. I mean, it's one thing to have the players. It's another thing to be able to mold them and get them to be unselfish and get them to a point where they can go out and win the trophies and achieve the objectives that you set out for as a team. How long has it taken Pep Guardiola to finally win a Champions League with Manchester City, for example? Okay. And with all the talent that he's had at his disposal. And there's a lot of different things that you can say to that. You know, I mean, there's some things where some games just didn't go their way. Some games, you know, fell apart, injuries, and all of that other stuff. And certainly you got to account for that. But when you talk about a manager of Ancelotti's quality, I mean, he's been able to stand the test of time because he's been such a good man manager. Mbappe fits absolutely the formation that Real Madrid played. Kylian Mbappe fits it absolutely perfectly. I'm with all of you guys. You know, and that's that. Oh dear Lord, look out when that happens too.
And look, I don't want to take credit. I don't want to say that Kvara and Osimhen and Politano choked. I'm gonna say it's more the opposite, where Ancelotti got his men lined up perfectly. They knew how to press them the right way. They knew how to shade them the right way to take away their strengths and really force Napoli to find another way to beat them other than going through the left side. And you know, you got to give credit to Real Madrid. But with that said, Napoli still hung in there. They kept coming in waves. They found ways to get through to Madrid. They started putting pressure. They had good spells of it on the offensive end, so they kept it in. You know, and you know, Napoli maybe should have had a draw in this game. You know, but you know, again, class always rears its head in these kind of big games. But you know, full credit to Napoli for going toe to toe.
Yeah, and when you have an inexperienced center back pairing of Leo Ostergaard and Nathan, okay, they haven't played much together. Nathan, in particular, has not played a lot of games at this level. And Ostergaard has not played that many more.
No.
And then on top of that, and I think that another thing that maybe gets overlooked is Giovanni Di Lorenzo. He has issues. Okay, Vinny Jr. is a player in the mold of he's similar to Rafael Leao. Rafael Leao will go at you and dribble you and get past you. Rafael Leao has had a lot of successful games against Giovanni Di Lorenzo.
Mm-hmm.
Vinny has that element to him, but Vinny also is clever with his running off the ball, with getting into spaces and things like that. And that's where he can catch Di Lorenzo out. Now, Di Lorenzo, I mean, Vinny Jr.'s goal was the product of Di Lorenzo making an error passing. And I, could be critical of Di Lorenzo's recovery effort on that goal, but I think it was long gone. He was so far back that it's just like you're hoping the goalkeeper saves it. But
I think he underestimated Bellingham as well, because Bellingham can read those plays very well, which he did in that play.
Yeah.
Anyone else in the world, it probably would have gone right by him and gone to Lobotka, but Bellingham perfectly reaches it. He's got the length to to reach out and poke it out, and then obviously with his composure at 20 years old, for Jesus Christ's sake, he finds Vinicius Jr., who's going to open his up. When he opens up his hips, the whole world is his oyster, and he can just do anything he wants with it, and he did. I mean, Moret played it well, but Vinicius Jr. still found the back of the net there on that goal. So Di Lorenzo hopefully will learn from that going forward, especially teams against like Real Madrid.
Agreed. I think when I take a look at the overall performances here, I think Napoli were fine as a collective. I mean, and I stress collective. I don't know if there was a guy that really individually shone for them at any one position. You could probably say Zielinski.
Yeah, I give you that.
But that's about it. It was, but still, they put in a collective performance. They were close to coming out of there with a point against what might be the best team in the world. They come a little bit short, but there's still plenty for them to play for here. They now have 2 games with Union Berlin. An Union Berlin team that can't get out of its own way right now. I believe they've lost 6 straight in all comps. I think they're realizing they've got some injuries too. A player like Robin Noka certainly helps them in the defense.
Yeah.
And he's been out for long periods of time. But I think Union Berlin's learning the hard way that Bonucci's just not the defender that he is anymore either. So that kind of becomes a problem. So they've got 2 games to get it right and maybe work their way to at least 7, at most 9 points. They ought to get a win and a draw out of Union Berlin for sure, but 2 wins really should be the expectation if you're a Napoli supporter, given Union Berlin's form, and given that Napoli is starting to come around a little bit. It looks like they're starting to slowly make some adjustments. We'll talk about their game against Lecce here when we batch up match week 7. But that's kind of where I'm at with Napoli. I think minimum 4, but should get 6 on Union Berlin. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think I really like Napoli's depth in general, but I think if they can use what they did against Real Madrid against the other teams, they should be able to get wins in all those games. It just depends to see what kind of Rudy Garcia beast we get out of this. But I think they're more than talented enough to beat everybody in this group outside of Real Madrid. So
sure. Moving on to the Inter Benfica game. I'm sorry, I just had my eye on the Brewer game. We just had the fucking bases loaded and we just went into a fielder's choice. Great job, guys. So the joys of playoff sports, right? Anyway, Inter and Benfica, that's as straightforward a 90 minutes as you're going to get. Filippo Inzaghi would have lost 3-0. Filippo would have lost 3-0 to this Benfica team with that Inter team. Yeah. That's just the difference between the brothers. Simone wins one.
We love Filippo, but man,
Yep. And luckily for Inter, Simone Inzaghi is the manager. They choked Benfica completely out of the match. I think they suffocated them. They limited them to some chances that were very, very comfortable for Jan Sommer. The defense was intact. This is the Inter that we've really come to expect.
Yeah.
A 1-0 win, a wonderful goal by Thuram from Denzel Dumfries. I thought that Thuram was going to be a danger man in this game. In particular, when you take a look at Benfica was starting a lesser experienced center back next to Otamendi and Felipe Morato, and you can't tell me that Otamendi can keep up with a guy like Thuram either.
No.
And then I thought that Dumfries had a great situation with Juan Bernat on that side, that he could go at him and that he could get behind him, get in position. And so I thought Dumfries was excellent playing on the right-hand side in this game. I thought Marcus Thuram took his goal really well. On a different day, Lautaro Martinez scores 4 like he did against Salernitana. I mean, my God, how many chances can you miss? And then the midfield was all solid. I think Barella for me was probably the best of the three. But take it away on your thoughts with Inter and Benfica. To me, pretty straightforward, typical Simone Inzaghi in a cup game.
Yeah, 100%. I think they obviously had the far better of the chances in this game. I mean, the most difficult plays for Inter was when Di Maria off the corner kicks going versus the direct plays, right? But Jan Sommer was all over that. I think Denzel Dumfries summed it up perfectly with Martinez not scoring. He says maybe it's because he scored too many goals on the weekend, the 4 against Salernitana. That's why the ball didn't want to go in tonight. He also said, like, in the first half, we wanted to find spaces to counter. In the second, we attacked from the start to the end. We had different ways of playing. I think it's a very good performance overall. I mean, I agree with Dumfries. I think what we saw is Inzaghi and company dictating play, especially being at home. That's what you want to see, and the way this Inter team is capable of playing. We saw what they did to Milan in the derby. When they play this kind of play, they're going to suffocate the opposition, not give them any opportunities. And as long as they don't make mistakes themselves, they should win the game fairly comfortably. And you saw what the amount of shots that they had. In any other day, it would have been 3-4 goals in this game easily. I thought the midfield played really well. In particular, Barella, like you said, but I thought Çalhanoğlu played very well, and as did Mkhitaryan, and some substitutions that were really, really well made by Inzaghi. And so I think, straight up performance by Inter. They have to be now more confident that they can win this group as opposed to just getting out, win this group, because you look at some of the teams in this group, and Benfica's got to be one of the top 10 names on the grouping list. And if you can beat them fairly comfortably at 1-0, it's only 1-0, but it's still a comfortable win. It's got to boost your confidence, saying, "Hey, we could probably get us up to 12 points in this league, in this group, and then have an easy way out into the group stage, and then kind of rest some players here, especially because you're more than likely gonna have some big matches as you get out of the group stages." So, well done by Inzaghi, and then hopefully they can continue this. Obviously, they did on the weekend with Salernitana, but this is what Inter's capable of, and I think Inzaghi's finally got that perfect recipe now. I think that adding Thuram and Sommer and some of these other pieces has really got him to fulfill the imagination, the dream that he's had for Inter, and how he wants to attack them. And I think it's working so far beautifully this season. Can it continue? We'll see. But man, they look good. They look good.
They do. It was an impressive 90 minutes. You get the 3 points, and now you've got an RB Salzburg team that, really were fortunate to beat Benfica on match day 1. They got to take advantage of Benfica going down to 10 men, and couldn't get much of a sniff against Real Sociedad today at home. You got to think 6 points is there for the taking, and that they can be on 10. I mean, if Braga can snatch something from Real Sociedad, that makes, I think just you win the 2 games against RB Salzburg here on match days 3 and 4, Inter are cruising, and probably by then will already have their place booked in the round of 16. So, real good situation right now for Inter, and great chance to qualify. After these first 2 games. So yeah, it was. I think Napoli as a team played well against a very good Real Madrid team. Came up a little short. Inter was straightforward Simone Inzaghi as you're going to get. Inter's XG was 3.81.
Yeah.
That's how dangerous their chances were. in this game, and they only came up with one.
I mean, I'm sure Italy were still, on nerves, on pins and needles. I mean, Eduardo, you're in the chat. You can let us know, but I'm sure they were nervous wreck throughout the game. But they looked fairly comfortable from our neutral eyes, and I thought this is what they do. They check out the best players from the opposition, and then just do their game. And when they do, they're almost unbeatable.
Yeah, Di Maria didn't have a very good day, and actually left with 10 minutes left with a little bit of a knock. Rafa Silva couldn't get anything going. Not a single shot from David Neres, who was asked to lead the line. Orkun Kukcu, talented young Turkish player that you're going to kind of hear more of as you go. There was not much for him either. So, rough.
Not a good day for the nines in the Champions League, eh? Neres, Osimhen, Harry Kane.
Let me ask you this. Let me have this conversation with you because, and this might be off Serie A topic, but let's talk about the role of the nine, and what can constitute a good game. So because, and a lot of this came from my frustration with Harry Kane. I locked him in all my DraftKings lineups today, and he didn't even get a shot on goal, or he didn't even get a shot. Okay, you and I had as many shots as Harry Kane did today.
Where's our money? Show us the money.
Yeah, why aren't we getting paid, Bayern Munich? Come on. And it turned into a debate, and there's a lot, and I went on this rant, and he's overrated, and he's the product of a hype machine from Premier League fanboys, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have sour back three. I like the use of that word sour. You're sour on any opponent's attack. So
Pavard is good.
He is. Pavard's good. Is it a good game from the nine if he doesn't get any shots, but he is occupying defenders and to a level where it's opening up room for the other playmaking midfielders and wingers, and they're getting all of the chances? Or does he need to be able to get on the end of some things? Does he need to be able to create chances from high positions? Obviously score. If he scores a goal, he's doing his job, optically. Yeah. But are there days where it's enough to just take up a couple of defenders and let the guys underneath him do the work?
If you're a striker who is not the upper echelon striker, if you're I don't want to draw any, like Cholito Simeone, like he's good on his day, but like if he were to be their lone striker and just holds up the ball and feeds it off to the smaller guys to score goals, okay, that's fine. But when you're expected to be one of the best strikers in the world, yes, one, you should be doing that, holding up the ball and feeding up to your guys and kind of setting them up. But two, you better damn well get your shots off, right? What we've seen this season with Vlahovic, for example, right? He's done excellent in holding up the ball, giving it to Chiesa and his teammates, but he's also finding a way to get his own shot. The best strikers in the world will find a way to get their own shot, will get shots on target, because it's like a shark with blood in the water. They will go for it. I mean, how many times in the past we saw Drogba or the Thierry Henrys of the world, Lewandowski's? I mean, any striker in the world you could take. I mean, Osimhen when in the league, when a true top echelon striker, they're gonna find the net no matter what. Whether they get goals is different, but to be a factor for your team and feel that they're getting their money's worth, you need to get some shots off it and goals. Goals is the name of the game as a striker, right? Say what you want about Giroud being old and stuff, but he gets his goals still. In these kind of games, the games where Harry Kane gets paid the big bucks, he needs to get some damn shots off. Yeah, it's nice to set up your teammates. You got some great teammates.
I don't think he even set up his teammates. I guess that's where I'm coming from on it.
But like a couple games, that's fine. But consistently or more than not, you better be getting some shots off, find a way, and that's what the upper echelon strikers in the world should be doing. I don't want to see go 10 games with no shots and no goals, because I'm like, who's next?
Yeah, he created one chance and he had one cross. He was fouled 4 times. So, so I mean, in those elements, okay, yeah, he's holding up the ball and he's getting hacked before he can do anything with it. So there's some, there's some good with that, because he's winning free kicks for his team and sometimes in deeper and higher positions too. So, but I think you need to get on the end of things. You need to find a position and you get on the end of things. And, I mean, you're running into spaces that, I mean, the guys that are trying to take away your spaces are Dennis Vavro, a Lazio reject, and Kevin Dix, who I've never heard of. And these guys were Maldini and Nesta against Harry Kane today. Yeah.
And even with Ollie's talking about Giroud, right? And Giroud's been hit and miss this season. I agree about that. But again, it's a team that's trying a bunch of new pieces and trying to figure out what their style of offense is going to be like. Is it going through Giroud? Is it going through Leao? Is it going through who? So they're trying to figure themselves out. Bayern have been a juggernaut for the last 10 plus years. They know how they're going to play. Now, granted, they got a new player in Harry Kane. They got to fit him into the mold, but still, I mean, what did Lewandowski do when he went to Barcelona? He kept scoring goals, right? Yeah, you got to find a way to get your striker goals, and so I expect more from Harry Kane, going forward.
Yeah, your game should have the ability to travel. I mean, and he's off to a pretty good start in the Bundesliga, and he's scoring goals in Bundesliga. This game, it just mystified me, the performance, and it's mystifying me that Harry Kane fans were making excuses for the performance and saying, well, he still did a really good, I mean, okay, but does that constitute a good performance for a striker?
No.
That's just a fraction of what's expected of a 9, of a guy that plays in the 9 role.
Would you be as mad if you hadn't lost money on Harry Kane?
What's that?
Would you be as mad at Harry Kane if you didn't lose money on him?
Well, and here's the funny thing. I didn't lose that much money. It just astonishes me. If this guy's supposed to be one of the best strikers in the world, according to certain people, and he's playing Copenhagen, he should be getting some shots off, even if it's in Copenhagen, even Lazio with their game plan against Napoli, Osimhen still got 5 shots off. They weren't good.
Yeah,
but he was trying. I mean, there were half chances, and he was trying to make something out of it. So it was just it was just one of those bizarre.
Yeah, usually when a top striker doesn't get a shot off, it's because it was a masterclass defensively by a center back, and usually it's a big name center back. And the Copenhagen center backs don't necessarily scare you. Now, I know not to say that they're not good, but Harry Kane shouldn't be stopped by these kind of guys, and maybe it's a perfect game plan to stop him. Who knows?
It's an interesting discussion. It's an interesting discussion because my son my son's a striker on his select team, and he's a 9, and he's not a Rodrigo 9. He's not a pacey guy. He's a big, strong. Get the ball to him, let him turn, let him distribute, and then he's going to get in the box and he's going to get on the end of it. He's not going to be known for creating his own goal chances. It's usually going to come from a pass. It's going to get in the right position and finish, and that's what he kind of prides himself on. But for when I and it's one of those interesting things. He might take up the attention of some defenders, which frees up the rest of his team. So
now this begs another question: is this so we've seen the trend in City where the 9 isn't as important as it used to be, right? Especially for the Azzurri team, the number 9 hasn't been the mythical position that we've seen in the past, right? Just, no one says like Luca Toni has graced the boots of the Azzurri 9. But is this a trend we're seeing in football in general? Or you think it's just a select few countries that are changing the way they attack the game? I mean, obviously with Ancelotti today, no 9, he's got this 2 smalls in there with Bellingham and company behind. So what are your thoughts on the overall trend of how the 9 is used in today's game?
I think the 9. I think there's 2 different types of 9s that I think that are out there right now. I think there's 9s that are like Giroud, Kane, to an extent Vlahovic, that are strong, physically strong, good in the air, and they're a high reference point, to play a ball to. Where they can get the ball, they can absorb punishment from defenders, they can drop it to midfielders, they can turn and play. They're not guys that are going to lower their shoulder and go. And then there's the 9s that are bending their runs. They're trying to get out into some open spaces. They're trying to stretch center backs. And that's their way of opening things up for the attacking midfielders and the guys that are coming forward underneath him. I'll give you an example. Lautaro sits pretty much right in between the characteristics of both of those strikers as an example. He's probably closer to the latter striker that I described. Victor Osimhen has characteristics of both. Duvan Zapata has characteristics of both. Lukaku is a target.
Yeah, he's a target.
He's a target that has, for his size, has really good first step quickness.
Yeah. Vlahovic is a target. Giroud's a target.
Yep. So, and I think it's how you set your tactics up that determine, what the role of the 9 is. Okay, and if you've got a Giroud, if you've got a Vlahovic, if you've got a Lukaku, then your wingers and playmakers players like that have made wingers and playmaking midfielders more prominent in our league.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, that's why you see Leao play, performing so well, because he's had Giroud up top, where he turns and plays him in, or Giroud has the space to take him on because or Leao has the space to take people on because Giroud's occupying center backs. It's why you see Kvaratskhelia fit so well with Osimhen. It's why you see Chiesa fit so well with Vlahovic. Yeah. Okay, and then when you want to talk about attacking midfielders, Dybala and Lukaku. And Dybala he's not a winger, but Lukaku will get in very high positions and be a target, and that just lets Dybala work underneath and get the ball and be able to be a playmaker with some space to work with, because everybody's chasing Lukaku, and that's leaving Dybala room to play. Yep. And then when you go to the Inter side of things, the presence of Thuram is exactly the ladder that I described. Pacey, stretch guys. He's not a hold-up guy. Lautaro's got a little bit of hold-up to him, but he's another guy that's going to stretch you. So when they counter, they're making runs. Defenders are going with them. And then who does that open up? That opens up a guy like Mkhitaryan, who, to me, is one of the best players I've ever seen at exploiting spaces that forwards leave behind. Yep. So, the 9 has taken on a multitude of different roles. It's no longer this classic big, strong guy that you're hoofing it to. So, what characteristics you have in the 9 is creating what the rest of the attack is going to look like and who steps up and takes a prominent role.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's my best description of it. That's as best as I can describe it. It was long-winded, like everything else I do, right? So,
no comment.
I get a laugh and a no comment out of you. Great. All right, so we're going to take a look at the rest of the European preview here a little bit later on, but let's jump back to the league that we're actually supposed to cover and break down everything that happened in match week 7. Richard, take it away.
All right, well, we started off with Saturday, the 3 favorites in Serie A, and also 3 teams, or 4 teams, really, if you count Lazio, that are in the Champions League. Started off with a Milan Lazio game at the San Siro. Interesting lineup, or interesting game, I should say. Pretty close, though. I think Milan were very comfortable despite how close the game was. They had some chances, but nothing seemed to be going in until the 60th minute. Christian Pulisic after a nice play between Adli, I think Teo, Leao, and then ultimately the Pulisic with the goal there. Nice goal of the week candidate there in the 60th minute. And then we saw more Leao doing much of the same in the 88th minute, finding Okafor, who came on for Giroud. Milan went 2-0 fairly comfortably against Lazio. Another statement game for them, saying they brushed off the Inter game and have been rolling ever since. Last year's champion Napoli on the road to Lecce, a game which could have been a very difficult game. Everyone who goes to Lecce find it difficult. Napoli came to play. They had a statement to make. Wonderful performance by them. Ostergaard, you mentioned him scoring in the Champions League. He gets his first league goal for them in the 16th minute. Osimhen, it's only 1-0 at halftime, so it's fairly close. Probably well done by Lecce up at that point, though Napoli had a lot of chances. Second half, though, different story. Osimhen scored in the 51st minute. Gaetano got a goal in the 88th, and Politano penalty in the 94th minute. Romping win for Napoli, 4-0 there. Rare to see Lecce lose that big at home. Speaking of losing big at home, Salernitana hosting Inter, and the guy who couldn't score in Champions League, it's because he used all his goals during the weekend.
That's probably what it was, yeah.
Lautaro Martinez with the poker, 4 goals all in the second half. I mean, Salernitana hung in there as best they could. Despite the barrage of shots by Inter, but eventually the dam would break, and it did break. 62nd minute, Lautaro Martinez scored again in the 77th, in the 85th, and a penalty in the 89th. The penalty was in the 85th, and then he scored in the 89th. One of them was a goal of the week candidate. I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but Yeah, I think we had nearly so after Lautaro's goal, Salernitana scored. You're thinking, okay, it's a game on, but the goal got taken back, and then Inter just went on from there. I mean, wonderful performance by them. Lautaro making a statement. He's got 9 goals now in the league. I think he's got 4 up on Osimhen and company. So big win for Inter there. They win comfortably. So basically 3 favorites in the league this season so far all won comfortably on Saturday. Moving on to Sunday, the turning of the calendar to October. Bologna hosting Empoli. Orsolini. It was an Orsolini show. It was a weekend for hat tricks. First, we had Lautaro on Saturday. On Sunday, Orsolini. Goal of the weekend in the 21st minute. Wonderful move. Wonderful first touch and a wonderful move around the defender. Gets a nice goal there. The 66th minute gets another goal, the second goal of the game, and then gets his hat trick in stoppage time of the second half. 3-0 win for Bologna. It wasn't all easy for them. Skorupski had to make some big saves for sure, but Bologna won as we expected there. One of the more entertaining games of the weekend. It was Udinese hosting Genoa. We saw a lovely goal first by Gudmundsson from just outside the top of the box. Goal of the week candidate there. Luca with a nice goal in the 23rd to kind of counteract that. Gudmundsson again in the 41st minute. Well, before he scored a goal. Called offsides, come back, a couple minutes later, comes back again, scores the goal, 2-1 at that point. And it wasn't until stoppage time where Udinese got an equalizer there, 2-2 in a very entertaining game. We did see a red card from Lovric in stoppage time as well. Juve Atalanta, a game that could have been a goal fest, wasn't. There was no goals in this game, but it was an entertaining game. It was really, it was curious to see how Allegri ball would go up against Gasperini ball. What we saw is both teams having their fair share of chances. Szczesny with one of the plays of the week with a great free kick save on Muriel. That was surely going in the goal. Wonderful save by him. But I think Atalanta had created the better of the chances in this game. Szczesny just stood on his head. Musso did have to make some big saves as well, so I'm not going to discount Juventus. Good back and forth game, 0-0 there. Roma, you had mentioned them at the beginning of the podcast. They got back on track against EDF, former manager, right? 2-0 win there. Goals by Lukaku, assisted by Paulo Dybala. And then Pellegrini scoring in the 83rd minute. Your goal of the week candidate there. Mine too, I guess. Right, we're sharing. Mm-hmm. But Roma win. Nice win against an in-form Frosinone. So, we say what you want to say about Frosinone. They have been pretty good so far this season. So it's a good win for Roma. Get back on track. Nice 2-0 victory there. Moving on to Monday, a game that was a sneaky pick for one of the potential game of the weekend's possible goals. Only got 1 goal in the game. I'm talking about Sassuolo hosting Monza.
What a drag this game was.
Yeah, what a disappointment. It had so much potential in this game with 2 teams who play very entertaining football. It didn't happen in this game, but game started changing for Monza once Lorenzo Colombo came into the game. Really, everything started coming through him. He forced a nice play in the 66th minute, gets a nice goal. That's the only goal in the game. I really was hoping for like a barn burn in this game, maybe a 4-3, 3-2 type of game, and we just didn't see it. Now, there were some chances. Loriente and Berardi, they made some nice saves in this game, but it wasn't living up to the hype that we had hoped, especially how both these teams have been playing so far this season. A team that had been taking the memo from Juventus and Atalanta, Torino, and Hellas, 0-0 in that game, and that's all I'm going to say about that game. And then lastly, at least the team who got the memo about scoring goals, Fiorentina hosting Cagliari. It was a Fiorentina show, and they pretty much sealed the game in the first half, which we've seen a lot this season. Started off with Nico Gonzalez off a set piece in the 3rd minute. Docena, they would claim it as an own goal. I still thought it was a nice play by Fiorentina. 2-0 at halftime. Mm-hmm. And then in the stoppage time, Nzola finally gets his first goal for Fiorentina. Wonderful chip shot over the keeper on like a breakaway. That's a goal of the week candidate there. So, yeah, that's all the games. Where do you want to start off?
Well, let's start off with the top. Napoli showed everybody how to win at Lecce.
Yeah.
We got very good contributions. I mean,
Well, I was gonna say I failed to mention. Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I failed to mention in the Salernitana game against Inter. The lone bright spot for Salernitana was the tifo that was displayed. They did the Pink Floyd, the wall. I mean, that was well done by them. Wall. Yeah, that was really well done by them. So that's the only bright spot for Salernitana in that game. But kudos to them. I got to give a shout out to that. Bob Lex was mentioned that in the chat. So,
yep. Lecce were phenomenal. I mean, sorry, not Lecce, but Napoli were phenomenal on the counterattack in the second half with some of the chances that they created and some of the goals that they scored. And I think that Lecce, this wasn't really a, I mean, if you just look at it on the strength of the goals,
yep.
Fine, yeah. Napoli deserved the win. We're the better team. They took their chances, but Lecce. I mean, I think that the score probably doesn't do the game justice. I think Lecce still played all right. And Napoli were just clinical and they were just efficient when they went forward, especially in the second half on the counter. You look at the Milan-Lazio game, and I think that when you look at that first half, Milan were treading water. In that game. But the way the first half unfolded, they had more of the ball, but certainly it was Lazio that were being more convincing with the chances. And as the game wore on, Leao got better. And eventually he is going to find a way to break down Adam Marusic and beat him 1v1. And he did it twice in the form of assists, one for Pulisic and then the other for Okafor. And then, there's a characteristic of Okafor. Okafor is the ladder when you're talking about strikers, but he runs and he gets on the end of things. And that's how he's getting his goals for Milan. He can also score individually. He can create his own chance. Okafor has just not been given an opportunity to do that yet. So when he can get comfortable with that part of his game, it's going to be, it's going to be very interesting. Good
game by Adli again.
Listen, Adli grew into the game, and it took my tweet to talk about. I think I said something about because I thought early on he was giving away balls. We talked about this last week on our podcast. We said, okay, Calcio gave him a lot of freedom to play, and he took advantage of it. Lazio are going to press him a little bit more, and let's see what happens. And I saw some giveaways. I saw some passes that were heavier than they should be. I think there was a through pass he was attempting, I believe, for Teo Hernandez in particular, that he just massively overhit. And I think it was because he was pressed into doing it and he rushed it. Classic things like that. So it's just like, wait till an opponent presses him and let's see what happens. But he grew into the game and performed well. So let's say the guy got sacked, but I think FIGC hired him.
Talk about the Napoli chief social media guy got fired after the whole.
I'm past all that. So, I'll tell you, Bologna have been knocking on the door for a while now. So nice to see them break through and win. I mean, they realistically should have beaten Monza and Verona. Arguably could have gotten something more out of Napoli than they did. Would be happy to probably just take the point in that particular game. But this is a Bologna team that should have on the way they're performing, Richard. And then let's talk about Bologna for a minute. They're on 10 points. In the land of woulda, coulda, shouldas, this is a Bologna team that arguably have been playing well enough to be on 14 or 15 points right now. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Okay. And we've talked about this. It starts with the target play of Joshua Zirkzee. Okay. Orsolini is a playmaker. I mean, he obviously getting the hat trick in this game, so that's going to stand out.
Yep.
A very, very interesting thing that Thiago Motta has kind of been forced into doing because he's got a shortage of center backs is having Riccardo Calafiori deputizing as a center back, and it's working. He makes good runs. He doesn't, he makes good recovery runs. He covers for his teammates. When you just kind of watch him play a little bit, he seems like, playing center back might be something he can get a head start at doing, and he doesn't have to. At Roma, he played a lot of left wing back and a lot of left back when he was there. But here he's deputizing as a center back, and it's helping. And Boykum is proving to be a pretty good purchase there too. In that center back pairing, because Bologna that's now 4 straight games without conceding a goal.
Yeah.
So they've got something pretty positive going on over there, and finally they have the goals to kind of back up that display. I rated them highly in my predictions. I think I had them I had them finishing ahead of Fiorentina.
They had the second best defense in the league this year, and you'd argue, for where they started compared to Lecce, Atalanta, Fiorentina, Juve, and even Napoli. If they had some of the good fortune that you mentioned earlier on in some of the other games, they would be right up there in the mix of the top four because they're playing that well. Only Inter has a better defense this season so far than Bologna. You mentioned the long streak that they had. They just couldn't find a way to score goals. Xerxes is, I think Xerxes is a good fit for them. He nearly had a great goal, great save on him with who I think it's Orsolini who set him up, or I forget who it was in the game. But this Bologna team has a potential. We've seen that pieces are there and they're starting to get them up. Mota's starting to get them lined up well, and so now they've got to get the goals, and that'll be like the final piece for them. But they got the defense, which is good. That's the hardest part sometimes for some of these teams, especially a team like Bologna. So, we'll see what they can do. But I've been optimistic about their start so far, and I'm hopeful that they can continue to build upon that because that's what you want to see. A trademark of a good team is you get better as the season goes on. You don't not like Cagliari, George, for a couple years ago where you start out hot and then you kind of drift away. That's the opposite of what you want to happen. I think hopefully Bologna can keep building each week and gain more confidence. Thiago Motta and his style of play that he wants his team to play, and he's got some playmakers. So keep an eye on them.
Go. Speaking of Bologna, everybody, go look up the headshot of a player by the name of Giovanni Fabian. Especially if you're an older person like me at 48 years old, and you see the picture of this, he looks like he's 8.
Giovanni what?
Giovanni Fabian with 2 B's.
Oh, it's
that just he looks like such a boy.
Yeah. That's funny.
Oh my goodness! Because I looked at because I'm going through the lineup and the bench, and I had to do a double take at what I was looking at. So,
is this the Primavera?
No kidding. Lewis Ferguson's been solid for them too, and they've got a rotation of wingers now, which will help them. I mean, they don't have to. It was Orsolini with the hat trick here, but Ndoye has come in and played well. I've seen good games from Jesper Karlsson, in addition. So they've got that going on too. They've got good, they can rotate guys into the kind of holding midfielder. El Azuzi is another good player that they've got in there, that's been contributing. Yeah. And then speaking of holding midfielders, can we just go to Sassuolo? Okay, so Manuel Locatelli, Davide Fratesi, and now Daniel Bolocca looks like he's going to be the next guy.
I know.
How does Sassuolo do this?
Good, scouting, I guess, and they have a certain piece that they look for in that midfield position, and it just seems to work every time. It doesn't matter the height, just as long as they have a certain skill set on them. And man, he looks like he's a baller. So good for them. I mean, teams need to start watching. If they're not already watching Sassuolo, I'm sure they already are after Locatelli and Fratesi. So I'm sure everyone's watching Sassuolo and the talent that they can produce.
Yep. And I believe, where did he play? I think he was with, let's see, I believe he was with Frosinone in Serie B. So, here they go again. They go and what do they do for Fratesi replacement? They just go and grab a guy that played in Serie B. And they keep plugging along. I mean, he played for Frosinone in Serie B last season. He started 29 of 31 games, scored twice. But it was his midfield positioning, winning tackles, intercepting passes, and then winning duels. He won more duels than he lost. So, and now he's starting to slowly translate that into his role over at Sassuolo. So that jumped out. That's another one that jumped out at me.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the Atalanta Juventus game on the whole? I mean, we should probably talk about that. These are 2 of the top teams in the league. I think that Szczesny came up with a couple of key saves, as did Musso.
Yeah.
But it was Allegri ball, and Allegri ball won out over Gasperini ball, in my opinion. That's really what happened, even though it was a draw.
Yeah, they cancel each other out a lot. They kind of stifled each other's strengths, especially Juventus stifling Atalanta's strengths. Yeah, the game had again potential to be one of those barn burner games, a really classic kind of game, and we didn't really see that. As you mentioned, Allegri ball won out. I know Juventus are upset at the result. Reno's in the chat. He was upset with the game, unacceptable. But this Atalanta team is also good, and so it's like, yeah, you didn't score any goals and you got a draw, but you also got to take a grain of salt that you tied Atalanta. And on the flip side, Atalanta, the same thing is like, yeah, they would have wanted to win in a game like this, especially at home. But Juventus is playing pretty decent so far this year, right? They kind of found their magic again with Chiesa and Vlahovic. So to kind of shut them down today or this weekend, you got to take it with a grain of salt and just say, hey, these kind of games, you'd rather have a draw than a loss. So just take the draw and move on. Hopefully the next time you play them, you can kind of get a result. But I was hoping to see much more expressive play. There were some times where both keepers made some excellent saves, Musso and Chesney in particular on their free kick. But some other places throughout the game, and so yeah, it's hard in these kind of games. These are the kind of games you expect when you have the big Derby d'Italia or those kind of games. And fair to Atalanta's credit, they are now one of the staples in the Seven Sisters now, and they kind of had a resurgence this year where they've learned to play a multitude of ways, not just one way or the other. And so yeah, maybe this is maybe we shouldn't be too surprised that this result was 0-0. I'd like to see more goals, but a draw seems fair for kind of these two teams that are playing against each other.
I lost my train of thought.
Allegri ball.
That happens. Yeah. Just a quick thought on Udinese. Andrea Sotil, if you want to keep your job, you should probably start Lazar Samardzic every week, every game.
Can he start him in 11 positions? I don't know.
I mean, what is this silliness with not starting him against Genoa? And then he comes on and they let's see, when did he come on? Yeah, he came on in the 58th minute, and they looked better in that. They looked better when he was in the game, and I don't know. Yeah, fine, you played every 3 days at this point, but for the majority of the season, you're basically going to be playing once a week. Your best player shouldn't be playing from the bench. Now, if you're playing every 3 days and you're trying to manage people, then yeah, you sometimes need to make the decision to rest players. So, speaking of which, Milan have won 3 straight games playing every 3 days. And come back to Milan real quick. That's another thing. And I said this on Twitter, and that was my tweet. I said, I think the Pioli out and Cardinale out, people are having a really hard time right now because Pioli pushed all the right buttons over the last week to win 3 straight games, playing every 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And everyone expected him to fold in this kind of pressure, especially after that Inter game, right? The derby. And he's done everything well. What you kind of see now is that maybe Inter are just that good. Inter are really damn good at the moment. So you take that aside. Same thing Fiorentina, right? Fiorentina looked great until they played the Inter, and the Inter shellacked them 4-0. Everyone's like, they're terrible. Then they kind of rebounded and had some nice wins after that. So yeah, Pioli is pushing the right buttons at the moment. He's rotating guys. We're criticizing him for some of the rotations. Everyone loved the Adli insertions, but some of the other substitutions, like, why are you starting these? I know heading to the Lazio game, they're like, why did you start it? Why is the starting 11 playing? But it worked, and he's pushing all the right buttons. He's getting now more depth. More playing time for some of the guys who don't normally get it. And so now, as the season goes on, he'll have a lot of guys with a lot of experience. Musa's getting some key minutes in right now. Chukwueze as well, trying to adapt into this team. This is good for overall team. And I can only imagine it's doing wonders for Adli to get these minutes in the last 2 games that he's played in. So, I think the Pioli out guys are going to be hiding until the next time it rears its ugly head.
Sure. We should talk about Lazio too. I mean, is Saudi in trouble?
I don't think so. I mean, he came up against a really good Milan team. I know they're languishing at the moment, and it's not what Lotito wants for sure. 7 points in 16th place, but they need to get on a roll. I mean, if they continue this kind of form for the next couple weeks, yeah, I see Sarri's head on the chopping block. But if they can string a couple of results together, it's not like they've been playing terrible. It's just like they haven't getting the goals in. And great, they came up against some really good teams as well, and so that's gonna kind of favor into. But they had a nice victory as well. They beat Napoli. It's got to hold something, right? So they got to just start getting some wins in here. And if they do, I think all calmer heads will prevail. I still I still pick Lazio in the top 4, and your Roma pick. You think a Roma pick looks bad? Look, my Lazio pick looks terrible at the moment, but it's a long way to go. 30 plus games to go. I think they can right the ship, but yeah, in this next few weeks, we got 1 more week before the international break, and then 2 more weeks after that. If by the end of October they're still looking in the bottom 5 places, yeah, you might have to look at keep your eye on Sarri being exited, but I still have full confidence in this Lazio team. It's just been a rough spell of tough games.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, yeah, let's see what happens with Lazio here going forward. They're at Celtic tomorrow. We'll talk about that here shortly. I do want to come back to let me come back to Sassuolo. Did you know that Samu Castillejo now plays on Sassuolo?
Oh, does he? I thought.
Yeah, he came on as a substitute with 8 minutes left in the match.
I thought I heard he come back to Italy, but I wasn't for sure for that. But okay, right.
He came on for Henrique, and that might have been Dionisi saying, "I don't want to win this game." So
throw in a towel.
Yeah, after Colombo scored that goal there from Monza.
Yeah. I thought the world was going to fall apart when Messias scored the other day, and I was like, oh my god, what's going on here?
Yeah, I know. Messias scoring for Genoa. All these, CDK having some success over there at Atalanta.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all happening. Monza just hung in there. I mean, but they had more of the ball to their credit. Sassuolo tried to beat them on the counter. They looked really good. Di Gregorio was outstanding.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Do you think Berardi was trying to do too much? I mean, obviously Llorente he can create his own opportunities, and so can Berardi. But it seemed like at times in that game that Berardi tried to almost do everything himself. And granted, he is the best player, but you gotta find the open man at times and not try to take on 2-3 guys.
I think he had to, largely because in this game, Pinamonti was almost nowhere to be found. Pinamonti couldn't find space off the ball for Berardi to feed him, so Berardi did have to take a lot by himself. So that was one of the things that stood out to me, because I watched a very good chunk of this game. And, I saw Berardi doing a lot. I saw Llorente doing a lot. I'm sitting there like, where the hell is Pinamonti here? Mm-hmm. And I thought, that's a credit to the job that Monza's defenders do. Caldirola, Mari, and Carboni. And you know what? Good on them, because usually when we see Monza defend well, it's because Armando Izzo's playing back there. Mm-hmm. So these guys had a chance to step up and, withstand what's been a very ferocious attack. This is a Sassuolo team that just beat Juventus and Inter. And now they turn around and they lose to Monza. I'll stand by it, though. On a different day, this game, the way this game unfolded, Sassuolo will probably walk off winning this 2 or 3-1. It came down to great goalkeeping by Di Gregorio, who's turning into a goalkeeper we probably need to continue to keep our eye on. Mm-hmm. He's 26 years old. He's been around the block a little bit, but I mean, at 26, you've had to have played for a while. But yeah, he's still relatively young. You're absolutely right. We've praised Andrea Colpani, but I think we also need to give some credit to Patrick Ciuria too.
Yes, no, absolutely. That front three for the 3 attacking midfielders there for Monza have been playing fantastic. They're a great complement to each other. Colpani's getting all the credit, but Ciuria is playing fantastic ball. He's probably the better of the 3 attackers in this game for Monza. He's been very sprightly this season, especially the last 2-3 games, I would say. Really taking the confidence is going through the roof. It seems like he's taking guys on one-on-one, finding his shots. He's got a pretty good vision himself. So yeah, keep an eye out for Ciuria and Colpani, that combination there. And this Monza team with Colombo now, if he can insert himself as the main striker there, they're going to find a way to get goals. And like I said, I pick them as a top 10 team because there is talent on the team. They know how to play really well together, and it's very entertaining to watch. So yeah, I'm excited to see what Monza can produce. And I pegged them in for penned them in for a European place challenge next season and going forward, but maybe not quite this season. But it's a good team that's getting built here.
They need a consistent, reliable scorer right now because they only have 5 goals through 7 games. Colombo, maybe this gets him kickstarted. I've just never been a believer in Danny Mota at this level. Curious. The other curious observation I have about Monza is the role that Matteo Pessina plays in this team. I mean, when you looked at him on the Atalanta teams, he was playing a lot higher through the midfield, off the ball with Atalanta, and here he's withdrawn. He's in roles where he's really protecting the back three. You don't really see him venturing into the opponent's penalty area very much in this Monza setup. You actually see Galliardini doing that a little bit more.
You do, and I feel like it's almost like a Pirlo role for them. They're trying to. He's the wily vet, the captain who just kind of pulls the strings from the back, protects the back four, and just kind of lets the young guys go and play the game out there. That's what I kind of vibe that I'm getting from Pessina. Totally different than what we saw at Atalanta. I mean, hey, if it's working, it's working, right? But very unaccustomed for what I'm used to seeing with Pessina, and I'm sure you are as well. So much different from the Azzurri roles and for what he played with Atalanta. So
I'm just like anticipating the tweet from Michael Lisi, and I'm surprised it hasn't come yet. Can we just relegate Cagliari now?
God.
So, because he always says that about one team every year, it seems.
Empoli are going to run for the money, but they look better under Azzola. So,
yeah, Empoli were the one that were.
Salernitana is what I'm shocked with. I mean, only 3 points. They played much better than their place in the table says they are.
Too good for their table position. I agree with you. But I think when you take a look at some of the teams they've played against, I don't know, Roma. They did get a point off of Roma. They had to go to Lecce, where people have been having a hard time with that. I mean, and Frosinoni's been in decent form. Torino's good. I mean, it's going to be an uphill climb even for Salernitana. Yeah. They go to Monza on Sunday, so that'll be a pretty interesting. It's a particularly big game for Salernitana. Monza need to try to use this game as after beating Sassuolo. This is a validation game for them as far as their prospects for top half. So we'll have to see how that all plays out.
I mean, you got Monza Salernitana, which is going to be a big game. Lazio Atalanta, Napoli Fiorentina on Sunday. I mean, those are some big games there. And then on Saturday you have Bologna Inter. Keep an eye on that for that game. And then the Battle of Torino or Turin with Juventus and Torino. I think Juve wins easy that game. But a lot of good games, a lot of big, tough games this weekend. So excited.
Torino and Hellas Verona didn't even try to play. I don't know what that was when they were playing. I mean, when I look at Juric's lineup, there were a lot of guys in here that I don't think he normally starts. I mean, you had Lazaro, you had Rodrigo, Zapata. I mean, even Radonjic, as talented as he is, doesn't really play a whole lot. But you had guys like Linetti, Vlasic, and Bellanova on the bench, and Sanabria as well. And the Turin derby's coming up this weekend, so it makes sense that
he's rotating for Europe, Frank.
Yeah, well, no, on a Monday, he's rotating for the derby. On a Monday, he's gonna change it up a little bit. But I mean, that was a painful 0-0 game. You want Calcio to be set back 30 years? Watch that game.
It's like sometimes managers overthink things, right? It's one thing if you're playing 3 games away or 3 days away, and you want to rotate some guys like some of these Champions League and Europa League players or managers are doing. But you're games a week away. Let's rotate some guys, and I don't know. Maybe there were some guys recovering from injury, but yeah, they didn't get the memo about playing entertaining football, and both these teams, man, it was a difficult watch.
Sure, I agree with that. Yeah, so I think that gives us a nice comprehensive coverage of what happened on match week 7, don't you?
Yeah. Goals of the week? You have any?
Yeah, I've got them. I got to just put them in order. Number 5 for me is going to be Nzola's goal. Nice little using the strength to turn, get away from the defender, and then a nice little dink past the goalkeeper to score there. At 4, I'm going to go with Orsolini's first goal. Control and then volleying that in.
Okay.
3, I'm going to go with Pulisic. Finishing after the nice combination play and the work from Rafael Leao. I will go with Lautaro's chip past Ochoa at number 2. My goal of the week is Lorenzo Pellegrini on the volley on the free kick from Dybala. That is from the angle that he had, that is a very difficult technique to pull off. I'll just say this. These are all close in quality. None of them are going to scream goal of the season, but they were all good goals. They weren't like oh my God, did you see that goals? You get,
Exactly.
that the Earth's got to stop on its axis until everybody watches it, kind of thing. But that's what I arrived at. How about you?
Yeah, it's like whatever goals that you really like, that stood out to you more than anything else. But yeah, I agree with you. No really goals are like, wowed you. So my 5, I'm with you on number 5, and Zola's goal. I love his chip there, getting his first goal for Fiorentina. Number 4, I'm going with Goodmanson's first goal from distance. It was a nice, powerful shot past the keeper there. Number 3, I'm actually going with Wojciech Szczesny, the save on Muriel on the free kick. A wonderful shot by Muriel that was going in the goal, and Szczesny made a great save on there. World-class save there. Number 2, I am going to go with Christian Pulisic. I thought it was a wonderful team play there for Milan. I love team goals. It was 3, 4, 5 players involved in that goal with that was a calm finish, collected finish by Pulisic. He could have easily whiffed on that ball that was in the air. Not easy at all. And the number 1 for me, I'm going Riccardo Orsolini. I thought his first touch, getting the ball with his back heel and then making that move around the defender in the air with the ball, juggling it and then power, doing a nice volley there. I love that goal by him. There's some other good goals, like I said, Pellegrini and Orsolini's third goal was nice too, but a lot of good goals this weekend. But that was my favorite.
Okay, excellent stuff. Well, let's move back to Europe and preview tomorrow's Champions League games. We have Lazio traveling to Glasgow to play Celtic. We have Milan traveling to Germany to play Borussia Dortmund. Lazio with a point from a 1-1 draw with Atletico Madrid, a bravely played match for them. Celtic losing at Feyenoord 2-0. So a chance for Lazio to, get some separation from Celtic, put themselves about as a contender, in the top. When I look at this Celtic team, it is a little bit reconstructed. Obviously, Andre Postecoglou is no longer there. He's at Tottenham Hotspur, and he's what kind of made Celtic afloat for a while. Maeda is a decent player. Certainly deserves some attention when you take a look at what Celtic are going to come at Lazio with. And then another guy I'd highlight, Matt O'Reilly's a decent player in the midfield for them. But beyond that, it's a team that Lazio should go there and win. But do you trust Lazio as a favorite right now? I mean, Martino and I were talking about this back and forth. He says, I always get sucked in on Lazio money line. And I said, they're plus 138 at Celtic. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah. So, do you trust Lazio as a favorite? I mean, yeah, they bravely scratched out a 1-1 draw against the team that's arguably the favorite in this group, in Atletico Madrid. You'd want to see them validate what they can do in Europe with winning this game in Celtic. On their form, especially away this season, I have concerns. I think they're going to get something out of this game. I think they'll win it narrowly. Lazio's not running riot at Celtic Park tomorrow night. They're going to win narrowly, and they're going to win something like 2-1, I think.
They should be the favorites as they are. And on paper, they should handle Celtic. However, what most of these Laziale players have not experienced is you'll never walk alone in that kind of atmosphere at Celtic. And no matter how good Celtic are doing, that's a daunting atmosphere to play in. The same thing if you go to Liverpool. Milan's going to go to Dortmund with a similar atmosphere there with the same song. How do they deal with that kind of pressure? Because you could be as good as anybody. The energy, the home team is going to feed off the energy. Lazio should be able to handle them, but it's going to be very difficult for them. I agree with you. They're playing very inconsistent at the moment. If they get back to their root play, the way they had in their wins so far this year, like they did against Napoli, they should win comfortably. But I'm not quite convinced with them at the moment, especially on the road at a place like Celtic, which the atmosphere is just so amazing. I see a score draw in this one. I think I'm not convinced Lazio can get the win. I hope they do. Hope Immobile finds a way to get some goals in there if he gets to start in this one. I assume he's not injured. But it's gonna be difficult for them. It should be easy win like we said, but I'm not convinced with Lazio at the moment. So, and I'm not a betting man, so it doesn't matter to me if they're the favorites or not. I don't trust them at the moment on the road and at a place like Celtic. So
what are you saying? Do you saying Lazio win or do you
score draw 1-1?
Okay. I'm gonna narrowly give them a win here because I think that what's working for them is that the Scottish teams in Europe have been brutal. So that's what I think is working for them.
Do you think Vincent is picking Celtic because he's a Roman, or because he actually thinks Celtic's going to beat Lazio?
He's picking him because he's a Romanista. There's no getting around that too.
Yeah.
And then they got Atalanta at the weekend, so he's hoping for the worst for the Bianca for the.
He might get it. He might get it.
Yeah, he might get it. He might indeed get it. So, Bob, by the way, Lens. Really?
What happened?
He's an Arsenal fan.
Oh. Yeah, Lens. Yeah.
Really? Lens? Is it Lens or is it Lens?
Lon.
Okay, so the S is silent.
Yes.
Oh.
Pretty much all French. In all French, the last letter is silent for the most part. That's like an easy way. The cheat code.
Yep. He's not sugarcoating it. So.
He sucked.
All right.
Thank you, Vincent. We appreciate the honesty.
Because I'm a real fan. Yeah. Honesty is the best policy around here at the city. Right. I'll sit down. So we move on. The marquee as far as Serie A is concerned for today. Obviously, we had the Napoli Real Madrid game yesterday. Milan traveling to the Signal Iduna Park to take on Borussia Dortmund. Christian Pulisic. It's a homecoming of sorts for him. It's not believed that Ruben Loftus-Cheek is going to be available to play in this game. I never dove deep enough to find out how long he's going to be out. We know Krunic is out. Kalulu's still out. So you're going to probably see Musa play tomorrow with Reinders and Adli in that midfield. And I don't think that combination is played together yet. So that concerns me going on the road to Europe, going on the road to a place like Dortmund. Now, this Dortmund team, I think there's an advantage with Rafael Leao against Julian Ryerson. In a counterattacking situation. You watch more Bundesliga than I do. Now, you're going to pick Milan because you support Milan and you support Schalke, who's Borussia Dortmund's arch rival. If we're going on Amazing Vincent's rationale here, I'm just going to pick Milan because I'm a Milan supporter and that's what I want to see. But anyway, I think that's an advantage. Can Reinders find the space to be dangerous through the midfield? Özcan's a decent ball-winning midfielder, but he's not going to. His role is not going to be to man-mark someone like Reinders. The presence of Royce in the position that he plays could put some pressure on Adli. So this is another test for Adli. And then you got some pace here. I mean, Daniel Malin against Davide Calabria. We're going to have to see how Calabria deals with one-on-one. And then on top of that, I think Rami Bensebaini is a very underrated left back.
Yeah, I really like him as a player.
I think he's a very good player. And he's a guy that, if you're watching Borussia Dortmund for the first time and he starts, he should be a guy that you come away pretty impressed with tomorrow night. So Milan have their hands full tomorrow night going to Signal Iduna. We're not going to sugarcoat this. The red and black in me think that though the presence of Chow and Tomori in the back will give Milan the freedom to be able to press, to try to keep the ball and maybe put some pressure on, Özcan and Mecha and then down to Hummels and Schlotterbeck. If that ends up being the core of players in that middle that start for Borussia Dortmund, can Giroud, kind of do what Kane does and occupy the defenders and maybe not contribute? And can we get Leao 1v1 with Ryerson? And if we can get moments, a goal's going to come from that situation, whether Leao scores it or whether he creates it. Now, it's just going to be going the other way because of what Borussia Dortmund can offer. I think this is a score draw. I'm going to go 1-1. I'd love to see Milan win it. I just think the quality of this Borussia Dortmund side is there. After losing at PSG, they're going to end being at home. They're going to be desperate to get something on the board here. With PSG, Borussia Dortmund, and Milan in this group, and then you're dealing with Newcastle too. You do not want to be the team starting in this particular group. You don't want to have 0 points in 2 games, and I think this is going to be a very motivated Borussia Dortmund team for that reason. I got 1-1. I don't think Milan go there and win.
This is a make or break game for Dortmund. It absolutely is. If they go down 2 losses in the first 3 games, it's over for them basically. This game has a lot of storylines, right? Obviously, Milik Chow coming back, former Schalke player to Dortmund. Christian Pulisic, former player for Dortmund, joins there. Some interesting pieces for Dortmund. You got to keep an eye on. I agree totally about Milan. Milan is a very tricky player, very good player. Dortmund are very pacey. Milan we'll see how they how they line up, how the defense lines up, who starts the center back, because this is a very pacey team that they love to play on the counter attack, and they love playing in front of that yellow wall. Very daunting to play. I would never show my bias against Dortmund here, right? But no, I this Dortmund team, they're very good. They're very good, but I don't think they're at the normal Dortmund level. They've struggled in some games. They had a tough score draw against Heidenheim, newcomers from the Zweite Liga, who joined up, and they drew them at home. They haven't had good results so far this season, but they have some players you have to watch on this team, absolutely. And so you cannot discount them, and they're very good at home, especially for that crowd, like I said. But Milan, I think, despite no matter who starts, they have a lot of injuries and stuff. I think they're probably gonna get Dortmund a lot of the ball. I mean, I like to see Milan. We've seen Milan with a lot of possession in a lot of these games lately. But I see Dortmund with a lot of possession in the game, trying to dictate the play, and Milan could play off the counterattack on that. I would not be surprised if Christian Pulisic gets a start in this, trying to prove his old team that he's still he's really good still. And there's some good matches for Milan here. I love your shout about Leao trying to feast on the right hand side against the Ryerson. There's some goals here, I think, on the counterattack. I think Milan, with Dortmund's form, can sneak a win, a narrow win, 2-1 against Dortmund, but it's not going to be easy by any stretch. It's not going to be like, it's not going to be as easy as the Lazio game was, for example, right? Because Dortmund will be hungry, as you mentioned. They're going to be fighting for their European lives here, or at least the Champions League lives here. And usually when their back's against the wall, they sometimes do prevail, especially in Champions League. They kind of show up, right? In the league, that's different. But when they play in Europe, they seem to step up to the limelight, right? There's no Jude Bellingham to bail them out anymore, but this is still a very good team, has a really good midfield. And so, yeah, it's going to be an entertaining game, I think. And, 2-1, I think a narrow victory from Milan here. Okay.
I'm just going score draw just to be objective. But my heart hopes Milan win, obviously. So, going to be a heck of a game. I'm looking forward to it. All right, so let's look at the 3 games here for Europa and Conference, and let's one game, and we'll run you through it. Sporting Lisbon's hosting Atalanta, Roma's hosting Servette in the Europa League, and then Fiorentina's hosting Ferencvaros in the Conference League. I mean, Sporting v Atalanta. Strap on the feed bag and don't go anywhere if you want to watch that one, because that's going to be entertaining. There is quality on both sides of the pitch here. That Sporting Lisbon team has a ton of talent. Pedro Gonçalves, chief among them. Yeah. Marcus Edwards, who's kind of like an exiled Englishman playing over there, but he's really good too. They still play their 3-4-2-1 setup. They still play with wingbacks, even though they don't have Pedro Porro anymore. They've got other guys against that in there. I believe Nuno Mendes that is his name. Mm-hmm. Another talented player there. So Sporting, it's going to be a duel of 2 teams that feature 3 center backs, play pretty similar systems. Man, I hate to say this, but Sporting have just a little more playmaking than Atalanta do, and going to Lisbon, going to that environment, I don't know if Atalanta get out of there with a win. As much as I'd love to see Atalanta win this game, I think they're going to lose. I think Sporting Lisbon win this game, but boy, I see goals like crazy. I think it's 3-2. I think this is one you're going to want to watch. This will be a boat race. between both of these teams, and I'm there for it. If I can watch, never doubt the Portuguese teams, absolutely. Shame Lisbon has sold a few players, absolutely, but there's still some quality there. And I hate to say this, Atalanta fans, but I think that you're going to have a setback here. Not going to really hurt you all that bad in the end, because Sturm Graz and Rakov are teams that you should overcome to qualify for the next stage of Europa League. So there's not going to be any shame in losing in Lisbon, but I'm going 3-2 to Sporting.
To show you where my mind is at this time of night, you said it's going to be a boat race, and I'm thinking motorboat. So, excuse me. No, I think that game's going to be highly entertaining. Maybe it's a CDK show. Who knows, right? No, I think this is going to be goals in the game. I agree with you. Sporting, as Vincent says, never doubt the Portuguese teams. They're always good, especially at home. Lisbon is a dangerous place to play, and so. Yeah, I see goals in this game. I go score draw. I mean, I see something like a 2-2, maybe even a 3-3 in this game. I see a lot of goals in this game.
I mean, that can happen too.
It's going to be interesting. But yeah, I'll go 2-2 in that game. I think of the three Italian teams in the European play, I think Roma will have the easier of the three. I think Servette is a game where they should comfortably win, especially at home. It's nice to get that win over the weekend. Build it up with another maybe 2-0 win against Servette, something nice and comfortable. The game Fiorentina has against Ferencváros, though I have Fiorentina winning, I think it'll be a little bit more difficult for them than Servette will be for Roma. Ferencváros has been a team that's they grind you away. They just know how to get results and play teams tough and don't let.
Ferencváros has some attacking quality, and they can get after you, and score some goals. And for a Fiorentina team that does tend to leak them, they got to be careful.
Exactly. So that'll be the tougher of the three games. Well, between them and Roma. Roma's I think got the easiest game. But Atalanta and Lisbon, I think, will be a score draw there. So,
to Amazing Vincent's point, how motivated is Roma going to be to play Servette? I mean, that's the one thing. You can sit there and say they're going to just win 4 or 5-0 because they just got the quality to do it. But how many of those guys are going to actually be out there for it? El Shaarawy and Belotti should be plenty. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, but.
I think Mourinho's going to have to get these guys fired up because it's his job at the moment right now because everyone's looking at him saying third-year syndrome. Yeah, not starting out well for Roma. And so if anybody wants us to win, it's going to be Mourinho. Now, the guys, like you said, it's Servette. How are you going to get up for him? But Mourinho's going to find a way. He'll find something. He'll maybe look at their paper and be like, hey, look, they're making fun of you, Lukaku. Okay, go get some goals. I don't know. He'll find a way to motivate the team. But I think Mourinho has to have this game. And it would not look good if they get a draw or loss in this.
I'm going to say 3-0 Roma. It's not going to be as dominant as, they're going to have the chance. They're going to keep the ball a lot, and they're going to I think they're going to manage their way through it. It's not going to be a 3-0 where they should have won 7 or 8-0. It's going to be a 3-0, and yeah, they should have won, and 3-0 is appropriate for the way they played. Fiorentina, I think, beat Ferencváros 3-1. As good as Ferencváros, and I think Ferencváros is good enough to score. But I think that Fiorentina are just going to have too much for them. One thing that does hinder Ferencváros, especially in their away matches in Europe, they don't defend particularly well. So I will give Fiorentina a 3-1 win there. So
what I want to say is I love Calcio fans because they always stick to their own home team, and when they're playing with their opposition, they're gonna make fun of them. So like Vincent talking about Lazio losing just because he's a Roman fan. We talk about Milan's gonna win because we love Milan, and then Armenian Teresa's like, yeah, Milan's gonna lose 3-1 against Dortmund because he's a Interista. So you gotta love it. Stay true.
You gotta love it. He's giving Atalanta a draw. It's still Lombardia region, so
yeah, that's fair.
But he's semi-objective there, Armenian Interista, isn't he?
That's right.
So anyway, so that's our roundup on Europe. We've got it all wrapped up. There's only one thing left: a very abbreviated edition of the world's most popular hashtag game. It is time for Who Won Calcio Twitter.
All right, starting things off. Patrick Kendrick. So first, the initial picture was from Leonardo Bertozzi, and this picture is of Messi, Beckham, and Zidane, and Inter Miami. And so Patrick Kendrick says, only thing missing is DiMarco. Yeah, that's right. World-class DiMarco there.
Why not? Okay, at Troll Football, Jose Mourinho has turned AS Roma into Chelsea.
Yikes! 4-1 to Genoa. Oh,
well,
man.
that was painful. That was a painful experience.
And speaking of Chelsea, Apex nominated this one. It comes from Statuotos. It's Puntales. So it's Sassuolo against the Seven Sisters. And he's like, give me all your points. And then against the bottom teams or middle teams, they're like, yeah, here you go. Take all the points you want. Good old Sassuolo. Fun bad.
I saw this earlier, and I think that I liked this one. I was hoping somebody was going to nominate it because, I this is my winner right here.
I agree.
Okay.
I love it. Good, the fun bad Sassuolo that we know is this right here in this picture.
Statutos just will come out, and here's the thing with him. He has some that where he's really, where he's really, really funny, really clever, really, really witty like this. And then there are some where he will punch below the belt.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mixed bag with him. There's some things from Statutos that I laugh at, but it's like I can't put it on Who Won Calcio Twitter.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's not his first victory either. So yeah, he'll sneak one in there every now and then. Or she.
Anyone heard from and Napoleon Nismo's been awfully quiet lately.
Yeah.
Or we're not paying attention to him.
Yeah, no, a few weeks ago, it's like it comes in waves, or maybe it's not paying attention enough, right? I guess I don't know. So anyway,
all right, we've done that. We've done this. Anything else that we need to share with the people here?
No, we're trying to do some collaborations here during the international break. Maybe meet some old friends, meet some new friends. We'll see how things work with our schedules. Other than that, no. I mean, this is the last set of games this weekend coming up before the international break. God, these international breaks are so annoying. So yeah, we'll see what happens here, and then get a nice little break until the 20th or whatever that weekend is. So yeah, just excited to see one more good week of Calcio, another good week of European football. We'll see the Napoli PSG game is gonna be huge tomorrow as well, and so some good tasty encounters coming up. So yeah, excited.
We've got the Turin derby.
Yep.
We've also got oh man, that's why Napoleonismo's account's been suspended.
Oh,
we need to free him up. We need to petition to free Napoleonismo. We need to get on that. Yeah, Bob mentioned in the chat, so I just went to go look it up, and yeah, that's exactly what happened. So,
I wonder what he did.
But we've got the Turin derby, we've got Lazio Atalanta this weekend, and we've got Napoli Fiorentina, all interesting games. You got Inter hosting Bologna, an interesting one there. How can Inter now, after playing Benfica with your best squad, now you regroup, you get and play Bologna, and Bologna's been a team that has given Inter some fits. So, not necessarily a done deal to say the least. Milan traveled to Genoa, so they will reacquaint with Alberto Gilardino this weekend, former Milan player who could never score except when the second leg against Manchester United, when he had just a one-on-one breakaway with Van der Sar, and it was just really easy. So,
or the long goal for the Azzurri in the World Cup run, right, in 2006 with the
True. So, but making a name for himself as a manager and doing a decent job with Genoa.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So some exciting games to look forward to this weekend. And on that, we're going to put a bow on this edition of Serie A Sit Down. You can find us on our own channel on Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud. You were also on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever there are podcasts. There is Serie A Sit Down. At Serie A Sit Down on Twitter or X, whatever you wish to call it, on Instagram. You can also find us on Facebook, on Twitter, or X, if you want to call it X. I'm at FTC_21. Richard is at R_KHARMAN. So that's it. If you are watching us for the first time here on the YouTube channel and like what you see, even if you don't like what you see, subscribe anyway. Because if you don't like what you see, just subscribe so we can just keep annoying the hell out of you. But more importantly, drop a like on this video. It helps us out a lot, and then hit that notification bell because you will be prompted when we go back live. So helps us out a lot. Much appreciated. Are we from the U.S. or Europe? We're from the U.S.
I'm in Washington, D.C. Frank is in Milwaukee.
Yeah, the Brewers don't know how to win a postseason baseball game again. So I don't even know what's going on. I turned it off.
Go Braves.
if Milwaukee got that far, they would see you in the championship series. So, but it's going to be Dodgers Braves no matter who comes out of this wild card round. Anyway, so that will do it for this edition of Serie. We may come on next week because we might have games to recap. We can figure all that out. I've got some work travel next week, so if not, we may have a guest. We'll see. We're working all that. We're working on that. So, or we may just take a couple weeks break. But we will keep you posted via Twitter. We'll be a little bit more proactive than we were this week. But that is it for this edition of Serie Sit Down. Thank you all for taking the time to listen. For Richard, I'm Frank. As always, please tell your paisans about us. Ciao.
Sul fondo mette in mezzo la caccia di Lorenzo.